Tremor, the new cameo that just came up, and particularly talk about his synergy with Rain, because here, we're all Rain mains. Tremor is an interesting one. He's obviously very variable and a lot more complex than any of the other cameos we have, so theoretically he should have a lot of interesting applications with Rain, and I think he does, but I just don't think anything that he does gives you a strength that other cameos wouldn't also give. But the strength of Tremor is that although any single option of his may not be extremely powerful or overwhelming, but it's the fact that he has all of these options in his arsenal that makes your gameplay at any point a lot more variable than it would have been. Like, just take, for example, if we're all the way over here at full screen. Usually, the only options Rain has is, like, cancelling some things, pretending to zone, or throwing these slow projectiles. But now with Tremor, you have the options of these other things. Like, if I'm metallic, I can throw a low ball, or I can throw an overhead that combos into my combo starting low. Or if I'm full screen and I have Crystalline version out and I get a knockdown, the opponent's a little bit scared, maybe I can get this out safely. There's just a lot of things that I can do at different times that makes my gameplay a lot less predictable, and I think that's the main strength of playing Tremor. But that said, that does come with the caveat of you need to learn, you know, obviously the order that he cycles through, but what kind of things you want to be doing in certain situations. And luckily, I think a lot of his variations do give Rain some repetitive strengths, so let's just quickly talk about those. We'll just go in order of the variations that they give us. So in Aftershock, it's the kind of the most simple version. We have this combo starter, we have this safe special move, and this long-reaching low. I think the most useful for Rain is obviously the combo starter, hello, and the safe special move. And these both actually have a similar application. So the main thing that I think Tremor is good for Rain with is that no matter what variation you're in, he does buff Rain's down 3, which is Rain's most important button basically, because around this range, Rain can't really do anything else. Like, you can throw random geysers and maybe die and try to anti-air them with this, but really around this range, nothing you're gonna do will work except for down 3s. And like over here you have to do dash into down 3s and nothing. You have to do like double dashes into your mids. It's a hard range for Rain, so anything that makes your down 3 better is good. And what does Tremor do for you? Well, he's got a bunch of safe special moves, like forward cameo, -5, pushes the opponent very far away. Anytime you're just like flitting around this zone, you can just do your down 3 anytime and cancel into that. And if they get hit by it, well, they just get pushed really far, and even if they block, you're totally safe. And now, you know, you're kind of more at appropriate zoning range, which is cool. But then you also have the second option of you can just do your up cameo, and as long as you're doing your down 3 at a quite a far range, maximum range at best, it is still -16, but this can be kind of safe depending on what character you're fighting against. I wouldn't recommend doing this against a Barako or a Johnny with good characters and lots of damage, but if you're fighting some other strange character like a Rain or a... who else has kind of slightly stubby buttons, like Reiko and Atara, this might be safe around this range. So when you're throwing out these down 3s, just think about if you are far away, you can throw out this mid, and it could be kind of safe if the opponent isn't ready to punish it. And of course, if they're not blocking, which, you know, a lot of people aren't, especially if you do this after a blocked down 3, people mash after your down 3 all the time to try and punish it. And if they do get hit by it, well then, it's a launcher. And you can get some nice easy damage from it. You can actually get some slightly cool extended combos too from this. Or even this. Oh yeah, that's a lot of damage for simple conversions into regular damaging Rain combos. That's just a cool thing you can pop off of anything, and then this launcher on its own is pretty useful for Rain. It's just a simple hit confirm off of any of the strings, and you can get pretty decent 30% meterless damage off of most of your buttons, and it's fast enough that it'll combo off of everything, even your standing ones. So that's really cool. It's just a simple, easy combo starter if you don't have meter. You can't do your regular Rain combos, and it's always good having a second option, which might be a little bit less damage, but it's consistent and you can do it anytime as long as you have cameo meter. Unfortunately, it does really get affected by gravity, so if you try to do something like this and combo off of the overhead of this, the launcher is so small that you can't get your regular combos. You just have to do something, I don't know, really pathetic. like that. So that's a little bit unfortunate. Luckily, at least off of the back 2, we have enough gravity to still get a proper combo. It will be quite gravity scaled, so you just have to do a short ender. But you're going to be getting like little bits simple combo extensions off of that launcher, which is cool. The low, I don't think is too useful for Rain, because you're already throwing out a lot of down 3s around this range, so people aren't too scared of the overhead. But then the only time I think it is particularly useful is when we start to consider the use of this stuff, where you can use any of his attacks as an ambush. And I'm sure you've seen a lot of these setups with like Sindel floats and stuff, so any character with pretty dominating overhead situations is really good for this. And you don't even have to be in the air like with Jax. Unfortunately, it is a little bit hard to set up, so it means you have to be not in Aftershock variation, so you have to be in Metallic or Crystalline. And then while you're doing something, you rotate into Aftershock and then press back Kameo and hold it down, or just tap it at the right time, and then it'll come out as an ambush. So now if I do something like this, you can get some weird mix-ups of overheads and lows at various timings. This can happen off of any time you go for like projectile cancels, portal cancels, as long as you can cancel or you can do the inputs correctly for going into the ambush and then going into the... It can be tricky. It's a really strange input. I think I'll talk about that a little bit at the end, and that's what I don't quite like about Tremor. But as long as you can get those, there is definitely potential for some very, very hard to blockables with 2 overheads and 3 lows all happening at the same time. So basically just give up and get hit. Then moving on into the metallic variation, we still have this really good benefit of good things to do after our down 3, as you can see there. Now we have this plus on block, slightly slower, but plus on block, and it still pushes the opponent really far away. So we just have a little bit more advantage to go into a zoning after we push them far away, and it's, once again, just a really good thing we can get after our down 3. Unfortunately, the up version is not very useful for Rain. It's meant to be good for when the opponent is in the air, I suppose, but nothing Rain does, even his back 3, can go into it effectively. I mean, back 2. And stuff like this just, yeah, isn't even close to connecting, so I'm not really sure how that's meant to be useful unless use it as an ambush, but I haven't seen any particularly cool combos in that regard. Where I think Metallic is mainly strong though is gives you a lot of extra zoning options, and they are slow options, so it kind of just makes your slow zoning game just slightly better. So instead of going for your mids and highs, now you can go for lows and overheads. So the low, pretty simple, normal, you know, it's a projectile along the ground, and it will hit people closer, which unfortunately the next one, the overhead, will not. But the overhead is a particularly interesting one because it covers the sky, so it'll hit people out of the air trying to jump over your things, which people do a lot. And it also, of course, is an overhead, but also leaves the opponent grounded, and you recover fast enough to get a full combo. Which means anytime you're throwing this out, the opponent has to block overhead and then low, and you'll still be plus and safe afterwards. And that's not something people are used to blocking with Rain. Usually they're just, you know, ready for his low, because that's the most threatening part of his zoning kit. And having this overhead option is really cool, and it catches a lot of people because they're just not used to Rain ever having an overhead, particularly from this range. So it's something you can throw out very, very easily, and it catches a lot of people. And it's very safely done, and even after they block it, they have to block overhead and then low, which isn't too hard, but they just have to be ready for it. And it's a really good knowledge check, and just honestly a really strong addition to his toolkit. The only unfortunate thing is that I mentioned you have to be full screen. Even like around this distance, which I would consider pretty far, the overhead will not connect. So like, boop. The opponent was just slightly not at the right speed. So you want to really use this when the opponent is either jumping or like totally full screen. Maybe you've blasted them far away with some combo ender, or they're trying to zone you as well. But yeah, if they're not in the air or full screen, it's gonna be pretty pointless. Which is why the low one is good, because it is also, you know, it's also plus on block, and it does sometimes recover fast enough to get something off of it, like a, maybe from full screen, but it does catch people being closer than full screen, which is handy. Then, yeah, that's kind of all that's interesting about Metallic. It's just cool that it gives you this back combo extension from full screen. Is pretty cool. Not many characters would give Rain that. And then in Crystalline, we have of course, the Crystal Armour, which I think is pretty self-explanatory how it would be used. Unfortunately, it is very slow at 60 frames. So, like, the only guaranteed way you could get this off is, like, foregoing a combo into getting this. But there are situations where I think you are relatively safe. Like, if you land this from full screen, you are technically very minus, and a Johnny Cage or Sub-Zero could do their slides in, but against other characters, I think that is a time you could possibly go for it, but just be careful. But unfortunately, even if you use this full screen, you know, range zoning isn't that oppressive. You can only throw 2, maybe 3 projectiles before it wears off, and even if the opponent is scared of the Crystal Armor, like, throwing for 3 projectiles is not going to do much for you. So they can just be like, okay, I guess I'll just sit here then. Because there's not really that much threat, if we're being honest. Maybe you do it and then you start going in to go crazy. That's when it would be more useful. But then unfortunately, when you're close, there's not any good time where you can really set it up, except for maybe while you're in a combo, applying it, and then getting your knockdown into a geyser or something. And then going for your craziness with the overheads, which is admittedly crazy, but you just will have to spend a lot of Kameo bar in order to get that going. And then Crystalline also gives you this, similar to other variations, something to do off of your down 3. Once again, it's safe. It is a high, just like Aftershocks, but it pushes the opponent far away, it's safe, it's just another thing you can do off of your down 3, which is just nice to know that you have this consistency throughout all of Tremor's variation, that it does give you this one strength where anytime I'm doing my down 3, I can go into something to stop the opponent from mashing buttons or disrespecting me around this range that I'm trying to enforce something, which is cool. It does also technically reflect, but I don't know about that. It's really slow, like you'd have to anticipate with the projectile, time it perfectly just to reflect it. I'm not saying that Rain's bubble is particularly great or anything, but it's a lot easier to use than trying to time this. So I would more so use it for stuff like this rather than to actually reflect. But then, yeah, that's all of the moves that Tremor gives you. It does actually have a cool throw that leaves you very close, just one micro dash into a mid, which is not something many cameos give you after their throw. So if you are liking to be a rushdown character, you have the option of doing a back throw, pushing them further away, or doing a forward throw and being in perfect range to go for more forward 2 pressure. So that is all the moves that we get from Tremor and how they work with Rain. Generally, we just get better down 3s, and then in zoning we have the potential to either throw out more interesting projectiles or set up things like Crystalline Armour. And then when we're close, we have the potential for slightly cooler combos, or plus frames, and on certain knockdowns, if you want to spend a meter, you can go to get the Crystalline Armour and go crazy, which is cool. But now let's talk about what I think is not so good about Tremor, and it's that there's 2 main things. The inputs are awful. I hate playing with Tremor, even if he was really cool and really strong. I don't think I could bring myself to actually use him. The way that it feels to, if you're trying to do some more interesting stuff, of course, doing simple stuff like this, it feels fine. Like you're just doing simple buttons into what's effectively a special move. But the summon into a cameo button for the ambush, which is where he gets really kind of juicy, is just so not good. It's not good feeling. So when I'm trying to do something, and also, maybe at least to me, inconsistent. So if I'm trying to, say I'm in Crystalline variation, and I'm trying to switch by, I tap Kameo, and then do back Kameo to go to this, or maybe if I... No, let's stay in Aftershock. So I want to switch, and I want to go into Metallic and throw this projectile while I'm full screen. What you would do is you press the Kameo button, and then press the Kameo button, and you can do it like I did just there. I was just holding down the button. So I go Kameo, back Kameo, holding, and it happens. Or I could time it perfectly, and like while he's finished flexing, I press it again, and then it can happen, or I can just hold back and mash on the cameo button. All those are ways that I can input that. But for some reason, when you're kind of doing anything else, a lot of the time when I'm trying to do weird inputs with Tremor, like summoning him and then doing my projectile and then doing this, it works while I've been in training mode, but a lot of the time it feels like I'm doing the right thing, but he just will not do the ambush or like something, I don't know. A lot of the time, even when I'm trying to do this, of course, now that I'm trying to show it off, it's working perfectly, but I don't know what it is. It just feels very strange to input and also very inconsistent when I think I should be getting it. Because you have to hold back and, I don't know, you do have to have the full meter and stuff, but I just feel like there's no consistent way for me to be getting it except for like holding down the buttons, but I can't be holding forwards or holding backwards throughout trying to do a combo because then I'll get like misinputs and I'm trying to do special moves and stuff. So if I could just tap it, that would be handy, but then that also seems to be kind of not easy to do in a combo. And then going into special moves also seems to not cancel sometimes. I don't know. I don't know about this. It just seems a little not so nice to do. And then apart from the inputs being just kind of unbearable, all of the, like I mentioned at the start, all of the strengths that he gives Rain are not something that are new or that great or not covered by other cameos. Like, for instance, the strengths that he gives him after the down 3 is really cool, and it's cool that he can do it out of all the variations, but there are a lot of other cameos that can do this a lot better, like Serena single like knife toss, or the Jax energy strike, whatever that is, with the down cameo. Those both do this very well, and they are fast recharges, so you can throw them out a lot more easily, with a lot less thought, because the cameo meter will come back a lot faster. Anytime I do this with Tremor, I'm spending a whole half cameo bar with like a regular recharge speed just to get like a little bit of safety and a special move after one of my down 3s, and I'll probably be doing this many times throughout a match. And when you consider the other things I could be getting with half a cameo bar, I could be doing some YOLO striker grenades, or some Kano knives, or a Kano ball, or Kung Lao hat, or Serena multi-sickle toss. It's just the strength of each thing that Tremor gives you and the reward it gives you just doesn't seem to be proportional to other things you could get by picking other cameos, no matter what variation you're in. Even when you're in the ridiculous stuff like with Crystalline, that is pretty powerful, but it is also quite slow, and there are some other like means of getting stupid pressure stuff going for a lot cheaper, like by using a Kung Lao hat. And you know, it's not a one-to-one comparison with Crystalline Armour, because Crystalline Armour is the fact that you can punish things and go wild. But a lot of things that Tremor can do, like even hard to blockables by switching into this mode and then getting your overheads and stuff, is cool, but it does cost you a lot of meter, and there are other cameos that could give you that a lot easier, and a lot cheaper. It'd be far easier and on your fingers to do, and you probably get the cameo bar back in less than half the time, like with the Kung Lao hat. So I'm just not entirely sure whether Tremor is the right pick for Rain, but as we discussed, a lot of his strengths do work well with Rain. So if you are already a Tremor fanboy and you want to play with him no matter what character you are, or you're comfortable using him with another character, I think he would be honestly a good pick for Rain. But if you are a Rain main first and you're trying to pick a cameo that fits your playstyle, I would be surprised if Tremor was the pick for you. He gives you these cool things, and he does have the strength of Tremor, being that you have all this variability at any point during your gameplay, but I don't think anything that he gives you is that good compared to just picking a simpler, easy to use cameo. I think not only would it be easier to win, it is just generally stronger, because you're not having to switch throughout the time, which, you know, is a skill thing, but it's also just an actual weakness of the character that you have to cycle through to get the move that you want, and that might be time where you wanted to get the like low projectile, but I had to switch and then go for it, and that by that time maybe the opponent has gotten in on me. It just seems like he's a lot less reliable and consistent in his strength compared to some other cameos. And I know I've rambled about this for a while, but he's been out for a few days now, and and I still can't make up my mind how I feel about him, particularly in regards to playing him with Rain. So if anyone in the comments does really enjoy using Tremor and has some big strengths they think is awesome with Tremor, please let me know, because I am a very undecisive person and I can't decide how I feel about him. I have seen some cool combo compilations and some pros using, like, I've seen Honeybait with Reptile and Sonic with Sindel using Tremor, and some of the stuff there does seem kind of cool, but I'm just not convinced yet. I'm not convinced, so help me out. Thanks for watching, and I look forward to reading it. See you next time. Bye!